Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of the High School Area Stat Leaders, brought to you by Spitzer of Mansfield. If you need a vehicle, head on over to the fine folks at Spitzer. They will hook you up. I am Travis Big League Berardi, Lenardi Berardi, whatever you want to call me. That's who I am with your Week 9 Area Stat Leaders in rushing, passing, receiving, as well as total touchdowns. These players have one more week to break the top 10, to break the top 5, or the ones at the top, to become our area champion in their category. So without further ado, let's get right into things and take a look at first our rushing leaders through week number 9. And as always, Connor Dawson now has broken 2,000 yards for the season. He's at 2,057. He is 720 yards ahead of Dane Nauman, so I think it's time we can call it. Connor Dawson will be your rushing champion unless Dane Nauman does something outrageous, breaks a state record for rushing yards in a game. But other than that, Connor Dawson's going to take the top spot. Dane Nauman still fighting for that number 2 spot, though. He is 20 yards ahead of Evan Benfer from Monroeville, who has 13-17. Another Firelands Conference rusher, Aiden Raymer with 13:05, and then Mapleton's Colin Klein, 12:93. Those two will face off in Week 10 with a playoff spot on the line. Well, playoff positioning. Both teams are in, but playoff positioning on the line for both. St. Paul's Josh Pokos sitting there in 6th with 11:32. Then Blake Elliott from East Knox at 10:99. Danville's Cole Delauder right behind him. Those two will face off in a big Devil Dog match coming up on Friday night. Anthony Evans of Winford at 10:54, and then back in the top 10 this week, Logan Toms of the Lucas Cubs sitting at 10:38. So there are your rushing leaders. Congratulations, Connor. It looks like you have that locked up once again, but Dane Nauman for another season is going to be in the top 2 as he finished his second 2 years ago, finished his second. He was the champion last year, and he's going to finish second this year. Now time to take a look at the passing leaders, the ones that throw the ball to those wide receivers, that give the running backs a little bit of a break every once in a while. And once again, actually, I can't say once again, Braden DeVito has surpassed Isaac Robinson with his amazing display against Ontario to clinch 2 home games for the Shelby Whippets, give them a chance of clinching at least a share of the MOAC championship. 2,584 passing yards ahead of Robinson now, who has 23.63. And then Chase Ebert from River Valley back in the top 3 with 21.07. Just ahead of him, which is Caden Holman, 1,936. Northmore's A.J. Bauer jumping up there. He's now in 5th with a great performance against Centerburg. 5 touchdowns, 256 yards, only in a half. If he had 2 more quarters, if he would have played in that second half, he'd probably be up in the top 3 possibly. He's at 18-19, ahead of Bogpin Miller, who had a really good game as well against Shelby, 17-89. Marion Harding's Alex Stokes at 17-55. Pleasant's Owen Lowry, 17-36. Mohawk's Ben Bogner at 16-82, and then Blake Foose of Seneca East at 15-46. And I continue to say this, the Northern 10 and the MOAC, kind of the passing leagues, while the Firelands Conference dominates the rushing numbers, as you could see so far here through week 9. Now to the guys that those quarterbacks throw to, the receiving leaders, and Cam Robinson still sticking in there at the number 1 spot ahead of Shelby's Isaiah Ramsey. Robinson with 1,170 yards. Ramsey at 1,024. He broke the 1,000-yard mark against Ontario. Kian Shadone, River Valley, number 3 spot, just like his quarterback, 830 receiving yards. James Rinfuss, who was at number 3 last week, dropped a little bit behind at 808. Highlands' Caden Reichenbach at 723 to round out the top 5. In 6th, Aiden Smith of Pleasant at 633. And then Jax Wenger, him and Bo Landon going back and forth. They're good friends at Northmore. They're going back and forth in the top 10. Now it's Jax Wenger from Northmore in it at 7 at 616. Mansfield senior star, Amar the Star Davis at 595. And then the Harding duo of Keontae Scott and Raymond Harbolt, 593 and 580 yards apiece. So there you have the receiving leaders, still close enough that we could have a champion between Robinson, Ramsey. I don't think Shadone is going to be able to catch it, but you never know. He could go off for a big game, but I think it's going to be between Robinson, Ramsey, just like the quarterbacks between Robinson and DeVito. Now to those guys that get you all the fantasy points, the touchdown leaders, mostly these quarterbacks, but you get a running back or two in there as well. But let's take a look at the touchdown leaders through Week 9, and it's led once again by Caden Holman, 36 total touchdowns, over 2,800 total yards, and there is DeVito right behind him, 2 touchdowns behind, but look at the total yards, 3,638. That's got to be Mr. Ohio worthy, at least an honorable mention, a finalist mention right there. The games he has been playing, even in the losses that they had, he has been putting up big numbers, and you can see that there with the 36-38 total yards and the 34 total touchdowns. Evan Benfer, Monroeville, sitting in third in rushing. He's sitting in third in total touchdowns, 34 total touchdowns, just a yard under 2,200 total yards. Robinson Willard, number 4, he is just above Dawson because of the total yards. Both Robinson and Dawson with 31 total touchdowns. Robinson, though, with 2,536 in the total yards. Dawson with 2,057. Bogpin Miller in Ontario, number 6, 28 total touchdowns. He breaks the tiebreaker with A.J. Bauer. A.J. Bauer with negative rushing yards. I think he has -3 or -6 rushing yards, but he has the passing yards to keep him in that category in passing. But both 28 total touchdowns. Miller, 2,586 in the total yards. Bauer, 1,816. Then a 3-way tie, which is broken up. In 8th, Ebert, 27 touchdowns, but he has 2,840 receiving passing yards and rushing yards. Pleasant's Owen Lowry, 2,257 total yards. And then Buckeye Central's Derek Dean with 27 touchdowns. He is at 1,872. So it's looking like the quarterbacks or anybody scoring touchdowns, you have to score at least 30 to finish in the top 10 this year. A lot of scoring around North Central Ohio. A lot of football teams that still have a chance of making it to the postseason through Week 10, as we just saw on the playoff talk. Also, these numbers are still going to balloon up there, and it's going to be interesting to see how everybody finishes it out. I think we only have one category locked up, like I said, Connor Dawson rushing, but everything else is still up for grabs. So that'll wrap it up here for Week 9. We will have one more week after the regular season ends. Next Wednesday, we will have our champions officially unveiled right here on the Stat Leaders, brought to you by Spitzer of Mansfield. If you need a vehicle, head on over to the fine folks at Spitzer. They will take care of you. I am Travis Big League Berardi, and I will see you on a court, on a pitch, on a field near you, because, hey, it's playoff and tournament time.